The CIOs that I talk to on a day-to-day basis have pressure coming from the board asking them to invest on artificial intelligence. And I think where we come in is how do we help you make your AI investment relevant into your strategy? I always say to them is you got to have a strategy and a vision, and you need an AI strategy or AI tech to supplement that. It's not the other way around. There's a market for service providers and model builders to drive these highly available and scalable AI solutions and AI factories to take to the market. When you have a policy, investors are going to look at it and say, review your policy and say, actually, this is an investor-friendly market where I'm willing to put in my investment in there.
Hello and welcome to another episode of ITWeb TV. My guest today is President Ntuli. He's the Managing Director at technology service and solution firm Hewlett, Packard Enterprise South Africa. We're going to unpack trends impacting Africa's digital identity and the technology supply channel. So what we're actually speaking about today, President, is Africa's digital identity and its right to sit at the global 4IR AI-powered digital economy table. And that covers many things. It's regulation, it's policy, it's tech innovation, it's democratized internet, it's sovereignty, it's connectivity, all of those aspects. And we have heard about Africa's determination to not to leave anyone behind in the digital journey, digital transformation journey. So what is its strengths? What are Africa's digital strengths?
I think we're in a perfect position. Sometimes it's actually an advantage to be lagging behind because you have an opportunity to redefine what the future will look like. So if you look at most of the developed economies, they already have the infrastructure. They've got built-in legacy infrastructure from digital, from connectivity, applications, I say. And if they are to leapfrog, to move to the next layer, naturally, they will have to ensure that all of that legacy tech, all of that legacy innovation, all of that creativity on the application side is well taken care of because they've already made that investment. So the advantage for Africa here is we do not have a lot of legacy to deal with. I think that's advantage number one. The second advantage is really around scale. We're a big continent, complex, you might say, because we don't have clearly defined policies, but it's also an opportunity to redefine the policies in order to ensure that we're driving a narrative that actually suits us, that suits our identity. We are actually a very special continent in a way because 1 in 4 people in 2050 will be African. That scale, that's an advantage of scale. So probably what we need is to collaborate more, to work closely together and take advantage of a scale such as that.
And going at the right pace, right? Because otherwise, you play catch up a lot of the time. But we've got that ability.
Eliminate the red tape. That's a key thing. I think if you look at the West, mainly the European countries, their advantage is they're able to work together, through the European Union. They move faster because they're all singing from the same page, and that's what we want. I think, if you look at the African Union and what we need to do, the intent is there. I think there's a political will. I guess, the edge is we need to move faster. We need to move beyond the building blocks. We need to stop procrastinating and start taking action. And that's how we take advantage of some of these innovative tech that are out there. And there's actually quite a lot we can achieve if we're to move faster.
Oh, that's really good. And I think from what you've said is that the objectives, the goals are achievable. Right? It's not impossible if we sort of row in the same direction. So can we move on a little bit to the market and the market outlook at the moment? And so how would you characterize the market for HPE in South Africa currently?
I think, just generally from a trend perspective, I think what we're seeing at a global level, there's a massive uptake around artificial intelligence. $15.7 trillion by 2030 is projected to be, part of the AI value chain. And I say value chain because, it's not only about tech, it's really around the ecosystems, the jobs that are being created through the AI ecosystem as well. That's the good news. Well, the bad news then is that depending on how you look at it, because we're in Africa, that's slightly bad news is that 70% of that will most likely be in North America and China, right? And if you look at the uptake around AI, specifically in Africa, less than 2%, projected between 1 and 1.5%. I see that as an opportunity. Actually, I see that as almost a 98% opportunity for growth rather than a 2% deficit. So that's how I look at it. And I think South Africa, we're not spared from that. I think we have a much more matured tech industry in South Africa. So certainly from the discussions that we're having on a day-to-day basis with both our customers and partners, people are really rethinking how they can take advantage of artificial intelligence in terms of driving growth. So that's the trend number one that we're seeing. At the back of that, the second trend is really around having a foundation, because AI thrives off data, that's one, but it also thrives off a reliable infrastructure. So there's lots of discussion, and we having discussions with customers and partners with organizations around laying the right foundation so the network becomes a backbone of what needs to be done. And we have value to add from an HPE networking perspective. And the last one is really around data and how we manage data. Cloud being part of the data discussion as well. And I think as a company at a South African layer, we're well positioned to take advantage of that through AI, hybrid cloud, as well as our networking portfolio.
That makes sense. And really brings me to another point, which is, are you concerned about the developments in the US in terms of how the administration is moving on certain companies and their stance when it comes to data and protection and privacy? Is that having an impact on your business at all?
It's interesting because we live in a geopolitical environment. So now I regard that as external environment, probably not within our control. And I think for technology companies, for any other organization that's operating in this world, being versatility becomes key. So I think we'll wait and see what the future looks like, and we'll work with the relevant partners as we move along. So far, I think that's our statement. Opportunities are there. We live in a global economy. Geopolitics are part of what we do on a day-to-day basis. But I'm grateful we've got a team that handles that on a day-to-day basis. Yeah,
I'm with you. Okay.
Yeah.
And the impact of collocation data centers in South Africa, how is that impacting your business?
That is actually very critical. So that there's a big talk around sovereign AI and sovereign data. That is critical because actually at the back of that, it's really around being globally competitive. So it's not more so around, I need to just have control of my data. It's actually, if you want to be globally competitive, you need to start innovating, be an exporter rather than an importer of all these sort of technologies. Right. So sovereign AI or sovereign data becomes very critical because by doing that, I mentioned earlier on around, it's about building an ecosystem.
Yeah.
If you're a consumer of technology, it limits you in terms of driving innovation locally. So if you were to focus on how do we build solutions that are much more relevant to South Africa, much more relevant to Africa, what that means is that we will need a number of companies, a number of organizations will have to build skills locally to drive that. That's one. We also need to ensure that our data is protected. So we need to put together policies that ensures that data privacy being a key one, that we not compromise and we've got control of our own data. So that's a critical part. But the big thing here is about driving local innovation, a local ecosystem that actually support us being globally competitive.
Which is also a very interesting point. Companies need to be able to innovate locally and benefit locally, empower locally, but they've got to be globally competitive at the same time. And I suppose there's a balance that needs to be found.
Yeah.
There's also a focus on big data centers
Yep.
in central hubs.
Yep.
What are you seeing in terms of growth of
Yeah.
edge data centers?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's very interesting. You know, when you're driving around our freeways, you're gonna see all of these data centers that are mushrooming. That's a good thing, first of all, because you know what it says is South Africa. It's a good. You know, we are attracting foreign investment. We are attracting global investment. You know, we've got reliable infrastructure that allows these investors to build data centers in South Africa. So that's actually a good point. But it also says we're a springboard potentially for African development. You know, we've got a more matured tech industry. We've got a more matured policies. You could argue compared to other African countries. We've got skills, although there's lack of it generally, but I think in comparison, we've got skills to be able to build systems, we've got skills in engineering that allows us data center providers to continue driving that. So that's good for our South African market. But with that, obviously comes the obvious challenges, you might say, or energy management, right? But that also power supply, but that also drives innovation around. I would drive innovative systems that are energy efficient, that are sustainable, that there's better use of water as an example, or better use of the limited power that we have as we drive that. But in the overall, a very positive step. We need these local data centers to drive innovation, to drive AI, and take advantage of the opportunities that are presented by technology.
That's very important and a very good point. Your business in South Africa, is it split in terms of Shiftington, selling servers and kit, or has it evolved to the Green Lake model?
Very, very interesting question. So, you know, I mentioned earlier on there are three trends that, you know, we're closely monitoring around AI, around hybrid cloud, around networking. We're a solution-driven organization. You know, at the core of what we do, manufacturing technology is core of what we do. In complementing that, obviously, is to ensure that we drive proper outcomes to the organizations that we work with. So our approach is to obviously focus on the solution side to drive real tangible outcomes together with our partner ecosystem, which is very obvious. The partners are critical part of what we're doing. Having said that, we're starting to see a trend specifically around customers that were first into the cloud that are now rethinking for a number of reasons. You know, one of them being cost, one of them being maybe lack of control of the environment. Some of them, some of the reasons we're getting is around latency in connectivity as they're into the cloud environment. Therefore, the Green Lake by HPE offering is now more than ever much more relevant to our customers, because we provide all of that economics, all that experience that they have in a public cloud environment, but in their private cloud, so in their own controlled data center. It could be in their own data centers. It could be in a co-location partner. Back to your point around data center investment. So we're giving customers choice if they believe they don't want to manage facilities, to be able to put together a bottoms-up sort of approach, including facilities management with our partnership with the co-location partners, Digital Realities and Equinix being the two core data center partners that we work with at a global level, to give them a Green Lake, a consumption-based experience from facilities all the way up to the
So
applications.
that's indicative of a sense of maturity in the market, is rethinking what they've got, right? And HPE is positioned to be able to address those requirements. How reliant is HPE on the South African channel, though?
Very reliant. You know, the channel is core and critical to what we do. First, in terms of driving scale, but secondly, in terms of driving real outcomes. We will never stand out and say, we provide an end-to-end solution that touches the applications and the ongoing support, all of that. But I think our core offerings is really around how we enable partners to take our solution, to take our technology solution and build solutions on top of that. So essentially move from a reseller mode where you resell an HPE server, but actually build your own solution on top of our platform or on top of the Green Lake platform that you can then on-sell to the end customer. So the channel critical part of what we do and what we focus on in South Africa.
Okay. And what is shifting the needle at the moment in terms of market demand? Is it cloud driving sales or is it AI?
That's very interesting. I think AI is at infancy stage, if I'm honest. I think what business users are battling with is, first of all, to commercialize their AI investment. So in other words, how do I make money through an AI investment? Certainly the CIOs that I talk to on a day-to-day basis have pressure coming from the board asking them to invest on artificial intelligence. And I think where we come in is, how do we help you make your AI investment relevant into your strategy? I always say to them is, you got to have a strategy and a vision, and you need an AI strategy or AI tech to supplement that. It's not the other way around. So AI needs to be complementing rather your strategy and vision that you're driving. That's one. There's a massive uptake with customers that are looking at connectivity in the base. So our networking business is much more relevant now, obviously with the acquisition of Juniper, that strengthens our position at a local level. And what is driving that really is really building foundation. There's continued threats on cyber attacks, so people are re-looking at how they design their networking. So our combined effort with HPE Aruba and now HPE Juniper networking is much more relevant in that space. And certainly what we're seeing now as we talk to customers is data and how people manage data and how they manage that on a consumption basis through the HPE GreenLake platform.
Okay. You've also spoken about artificial intelligence in terms of AI factories.
Yep.
And can you elaborate on that a little bit for us? I mean, who's going to design it and build it? And
Yep.
how's it going to work?
When you look at what we do and certainly our approach, and I think it's critical we mention, we've got a very strong partnership with NVIDIA at a global level, which we replicate in any other country that in which we operate. And South Africa is not exempted from that. And I think we've got that sort of advantage being based in South Africa is we're able to provide the entire or the full portfolio of HPE solutions for the South African market. The AI market, you could argue, is divided into almost three areas. First, you've got these massive systems that service providers are actually building to own sell. So they're building AI factories to own sell into their customers. So these are people that are either doing inferencing, model building. We don't believe everyone else needs to build their own models. We believe, there's a market for service providers and model builders to drive these highly available and scalable AI solutions and AI factories to take to the market. That's one. But there's also, your enterprise customer that just want to build a use case, probably a simple use case around customer experience. And what we do in there is we help customers fast track that in that we've got a readily available NVIDIA by HPE solution available for them to leverage on. And we also build private cloud AI solution in conjunction with NVIDIA and our other partners that is a turnkey solution for an enterprise customer that's just looking at how they take the AI solutions to the market. So fully built with NVIDIA software, fully supported together with our partners, and customers are able to fast track the adoption of AI and be able to build use cases in there. But there's also a big focus, particularly in the security space, where you got customers that are saying, I love AI, but I'm not quite sure that I need my data to be accessible to organizations outside of my environment. So the third area and solution sets that we're driving is what we call sovereign AI. So call it a disconnected sovereign AI solution for customers that are sensitive around where their data is being stored.
That's interesting because the terminology came through in your thought leadership because it's AI sovereignty is quite an interesting sort of take on it, When we speak about sovereignty, though, we have to explain and we have to go into the data. Can you've said that to ensure that data fuels local innovation and remains a national asset, we must retain the rights to govern it.
Correct.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, and critical.
Yeah.
So we can't talk about sovereign AI when we don't talk about data sovereignty, because at the core of what you're doing is data.
Yes.
Um, and it's about really protecting that data. So the concept around sovereign AI is it gives, South Africa and Africa, if you wish, an opportunity to develop their own AI solution. So have control over the AI solutions that they're developing, but at the same time come up with a policy framework or an ethical policy framework that helps in terms of governing that. At the same time, I mentioned an ecosystem, build up an ecosystem, a local ecosystem that helps drive that as well. It's critical that we have AI solutions, to your point earlier on, that does not leave other people behind. We're a very interesting country, if I can use South Africa as an example, in that you still have a lot of people that do not necessarily have access to some of the tech. So by developing our own sovereign AI solutions, the idea is to ensure that we include the people or everyone else in the ecosystem. Every citizen in South Africa should be able to take advantage of that. An example will be if you develop a government solution that only caters for the needs of the middle class to high income earners, there is a majority of the people that might not have access to that. So sovereign AI becomes very critical because it helps drive the narrative around who needs access to my data. How do I build AI solutions or solutions that actually ensure we don't digitally leave other people around behind? But most importantly, to try and ensure that we do not get other countries or rather other economies developing African AI solutions without our participation. Yeah.
That's also a very critical factor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it also brings into question policy, regulation.
Yeah.
What is your take on the AI framework, the national policy framework?
Yeah.
What is your view on it?
I think it's important to know that successful companies that are deploying AI solution really started by ensuring they have a national AI policy or a regional or geographical AI policy. If you look at the UK and the work that they're doing today, really started with them taking a step back and saying, hey, listen, I need a framework that will help me put together a national AI policy. We're not there yet in South Africa. Other African countries are there. Morocco, Mauritius, and Gabon have developed their own AI policy framework. And what you're seeing, specifically in Morocco, is that because of that, that actually attracts global investment. It attracts foreign investment. When you have a policy, investors are going to look at it and say, review your policy and say, actually, this is an investor-friendly market where I'm willing to put in my investment in there. Now, although we're talking about building our own system, there will still be a reliance from organizations such as ourselves from an HPE perspective that needs to play a part in helping the country getting in there. So having a national AI policy framework is critical. We're not there yet from a South Africa perspective. The positive news is, I think part of the G20 presidency is really looking at how we put together a digital strategy for the country. And part of that, as I understand it, will be this national AI policy. We spoke earlier on, you and I, Aaron, we need to move with speed. So to take advantage of this, I would like to urge our government and certainly the private sector organizations that are assisting government in putting that together to move with speed. Because in the tech world, 2 and 3 years makes a massive difference. You don't want to be developing a policy that might be irrelevant in 3 years' time. So that's probably my ask of our government.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, how far do you think we are away from a formal AI Act, formal legislation in South Africa?
I'm not too close to it, but I'm hoping we're not far away. I'm hoping this can be concluded within the next year or so. I think it's critical we have that. I think I would like to urge, and we have a role to play as the private sector, as a private sector organization. And I think there's an opportunity to maybe look at ensuring that your public-private partnership sort of model already works in that, because you will have a national AI policy, but you also need to execute with speed as well. So being flexible around partnering with industries either be in tech or in ethics or in any other industry, becomes critical in time if we are to take advantage of the opportunity before us.
100%. Thank
Yeah.
you very, very much.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and we'll catch you next time.